What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. So another one that was on our radar for the 23rd of September was the newest offering from Venom Inc. It is not regular Venom, this is Venom Inc. It does get confusing because there are technically two versions of Venom. This is the Inc. version that actually did a reformation of the post-Chronos years. So this is with Tony Dolan, aka Demolition Man, on bass and vocals, but still retains Mantis on guitars. Now again, this came out on the 23rd of September on Nuclear Blast Records. This is their second album. They formed in 2015, again technically as a Venom reunion, but due to legal reasons, they had to throw an Inc on there. There's nothing that brings bands together like having to throw an AD or a BC, or in this case, an Inc at the end of your name because of legal reasons. Now, from what I gather, there is still some bad blood between the two factions, but I was actually looking forward to this when I heard a couple of singles, and this isn't like old school Venom. Like, this has elements of it. This is more of a thrash metal project, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, definitely right out of the gate with How Many Can Die. Good energy. Riffs. I think riffs are the summation of the whole album.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty much on point. Like, listening to this, I can hear why Slayer loved a lot of Mantis's riffs, maybe even borrowed a couple on those early albums. Borrowed. But it's actually really interesting to listen to it because, like, you can hear the classic Venom again. It's still there, especially in some of the more, like, D-beat oriented songs where it's kind of that steady, like, Motorhead sort of gallop. Come to Me actually kind of captures that. The riffs are a little bit more heavy metal oriented. They mix in some good heavier parts that feel maybe slightly more modern, or at least more towards the thrash realm versus the heavy metal realm. But the riff work on here is actually awesome. I really dig it.
Like the song Burn, Liar, Burn. Now, this does have a bunch of riffs in it, but I actually really like this song for more reasons than just riffs. This song, I think, out of all the songs on the record, takes a little bit of a turn. First of all, there's no vocals at all till you get to the 3-minute mark, which is really deceiving because I thought it was going to be an instrumental.
Yeah, same here.
But it sounds a lot like Orion from Metallica.
Better drum work.
And then it sounds like Beneath the Remains. And then by the time the vocals kick in, he sounds like Rob Flynn. But it just sounds like a kind of like a mismatch of different styles.
And the mismatch here actually works. Like, you gotta get let in with melody. Like some really good melodic hooks, some clean playing, a really solid sort of anthemic riff, mid-tempo sort of drive again. You know, Orion. It definitely sounds like it.
Yeah.
But kicking into that thrash gear, like, we didn't expect it. Like, we heard the riff come in, I was like, all right, they're gonna do kind of like maybe like a breakdown over that. Goes full bore like those galloping blasts that you would associate with Igor Cavalera, and just kicks the song at a high octane. And I have to say, their drummer War Machine, who is actually Jeremy Kling from Inhuman Condition in the Absence, does a really killer job in here. Mostly just like straightforward like pocket drumming, but he brings a lot of energy to the songs. Like he's just beating the living shit out of those drums and kind of driving them, and behind that you have like solid riff work. So it's a good combo. And yes, he is considerably younger than the rest of the band because Mantis, I believe, is 61. And honestly, he kept up, which I was really impressed by. Like, there's a lot of fast, aggressive riffing on here. And again, not stuff that is generally associated with his past work in Venom in terms of like those early years, you know, Welcome to Hell, War with Satan, black metal. It's way more aggressive than that work. But he keeps up, and honestly, the lead work on here is definitely something to talk about, too.
The lead work, actually, in this record is probably my favorite part of this record. It pulls a lot of things together when some things fall apart. Very solid leads. I don't know if it's the tone I would have used for the leads, necessarily. There's a lot of, like, a one-trick pony on the filters they use for the guitar. Like, there's a water kind of filter, almost, that's on 90% of the clean parts. Nonetheless, the leads were actually pretty ripping, considering.
Yeah, very shreddy, very melodic, too. There's some really excellent epic melodies, especially on Tyrant. And Come to Me actually has this really cool, like, Middle Eastern-ish melody that kind of leads in the solo, kind of just, you know, sets the mood, and then he just kind of rips away. Really solid work. I was really impressed because, again, you know, Mantis is getting up there, and even Demolition Man or Tony Dolan. I don't know. The Demolition Man, I just think of the movie.
Yes.
I don't, you know, it's not, you know, it's an okay movie. Let's be honest. But you know, his vocals are, you know, nice and raw and kind of out front. I do have to say, some of the filters on it or lack of them. You know, he uses some filters occasionally, but when it's just very straightforward and dry, you know, I just feel like there should be a little bit more to them. And even on some tracks, he kind of sounds like he's off the beat, like the song 9, which is the 9th track on
Very
here.
clever.
Very clever.
Well done. Original.
But for the most part, like, he's kind of like, you know, throwing out some like good, you know, kind of punky old guy fury. Like, there's a little bit of like crust punk sort of gristle to his
Punky
vocal.
old guy fury.
Yeah. I'm pissed, but, you know, I can't mosh, man, because, you know, these fucking knees. Ugh.
My knees, dude. But to continue on with cool riffing, the song Don't Feed Me Your Lies, that is, I think, one of the most fun riffs on the album. It's got this cool melodic tapping part that appears several times in the song that just is really unique because there's nothing else like it in the record.
Even harmonizes it, too.
Yep, harmonizes it. And then it's got this galloping triplet breakdown that I think is one of the heaviest parts in this album. It's not long enough, but that's a fun song.
I really dug that one. It's one of the longer songs in there. You know, the chorus is this big stomp, like, just don't feed me your lies. Like, it, you know, it's very anthemic. It's very punch you in the face with every word. And, I mean, you know, going by that and burn, liar, burn, just don't lie to this band. It just sounds like a bad idea.
Don't do it.
You know, these guys might be able to kick the shit out of you. I know they're older, but, I mean, they seem like they got the energy.
Yeah, the old guys still got some oomph in them. Just ask this guy.
I like how this album opens up very thrashy and very bombastic, and it does keep the energy up for a long time in here. The songwriting itself is very meat and potatoes, but this is kind of expected from a band that is rooted in old school meat and potatoes, heavy metal. Honestly, hearing the more thrashy side of them, it's kind of, you know, refreshing, I think. Just because, you know, I was figuring I was going to get something that sounded more like, you know, Midnight. You know, Midnight, totally aware of what they're doing in the 80s heavy metal worship and bringing all the sleaze. I kind of expected this, you know, to sound like that. I'm really not familiar with Venom Inc's first album. I know it exists. I haven't really jammed it, but I did want to check this one out because I did like the singles. I would say the first 3/4 of this album are pretty solid. There's a lot of good melodic hooks in it, despite it being kind of a bruiser of an album and just like, let's riff and let me just yell at you about all the things I hate. War, Satan, maybe more Satan in there too.
Satan at war, warring with Satan.
Satan driving a tank while at war with other Satans.
Ooh.
I know, that's a lot.
That'd be rough.
It's a huge Venom crossover universe that isn't shared between the two bands because one is Inc. and one is Venom, and I don't think they like each other still.
I think collectively, though, they have Satan.
I mean, well, one of them was definitely at war with them. But I was really refreshed that this didn't come out of the gate very tired. It came out very energetic. Now, that isn't to say that this album doesn't have its issues. There's definitely some issues, and one of them right away is the production here is very dry.
And it's not just the guitars. It's like literally everything is dry. The bass, the bass tone sounds like if you've ever done whippets, you know, the wah, wah, it's just kind of that.
Yeah, there are some moments where, you know, there's a guitar isolated and you hear the bass come in, and it's kind of hard to even like pick out like the actual sound of the bass strings being plucked, but you hear them like come out, and I don't know, it just doesn't sound right. It feels like this should have like a really just grisly, well, like Motorhead-ish sort of bass tone. Like that would fucking totally fit. It feels like it should be overdriven.
Yep. And the guitars, I mean, once again, great riffs. And at least, you know, unlike some albums we've listened to recently, at least the volume was there. But there's zero effect on it other than this water kind of envelope filter they're using that they use all the time. Every clean part in this record has that filter on it, and the drums sounded good, but even the drums were a little dry. There's like no reverb on this album whatsoever. There's no atmosphere. It's just there.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, that's okay, I guess. Like, I mean, it does sound like a band. Like, you know, it doesn't sound like, say, they had a drum machine or something like that, because, you know, their last album did. But at the same time, there's another issue too, where I think this album might be reaching too far in certain aspects. Namely, my big issue is, again, you know, after Burn, Liar, Burn, this album kind of takes a bit of a dive.
Kind of just drops off. It gets progressively less intense
and less focused.
Yes,
I would say.
Yes.
Like 9 just feels like a collection of riffs, like, like different styles. Like, oh, we want to do like sort of a bolt thrower mid-tempo song. Nah, we're going to do like some Motorhead for a bit. Let's just throw in some thrash. And it's just how it's arranged. It feels like a collection of ideas that weren't necessarily arranged properly. But when you get down to a song like The Dance,
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. It's confusing.
It really starts out like Pantera. This Love, maybe Hard Lines and Sunken Cheeks, like one of those two.
Floods.
And then it floods. Yeah. And then it gets a little like Alice in Chainsy.
Love, Hate, Love, yeah.
But I mean, it flips back and forth between what could be a heavier song to quiet, to heavy, to quiet. And the transitions, in fact, there's one that's just flat out, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it stops the riff, there's a couple hi-hat clicks, and then they go back into something fast again from this water filter thing. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It sounds like someone arguing over what they want to listen to at a party on the speaker.
Yeah, right.
I want to listen to this nice soft Ozzy song. Well, fuck you, I want to listen to Slayer. And it's just back and forth, and the rest of the party goers like, dude, these two motherfuckers swat their phones out of their fucking hands.
Yep, just turn off the music. We're good. We can whistle. And then you get to the last song, Inferno. I'm going to be honest, that song's just kind of there.
Yeah. I think what the song was attempting to be was like the big fist-pumping, sort of anthem. It's got the mid-tempo, sort of like stomping groove to it. It even leads in with the drums like that. The riff is okay, but there's like none of the energy to it. Like, I don't really want to fist pump to this one. It's like just like, I would, but rotator cuff. It's just, this is bad.
With the exception of the really heavy breakdown that doesn't last long enough in Rampant, really you could cut the last 4 songs off of this record.
And honestly, I think it would be a stronger album for it. This runs about 53 minutes, and it kind of feels needlessly long. And up to that point, like the longer songs on here, namely, Don't Feed Me Your Lies, Burn, Liar, Burn, and Come to Me, those are all strong songs. They just kind of play to their strengths. They're not trying to push too hard into like unfamiliar territory and get like very creative for the sake of being creative. They're just like, no, let's just deliver some riffs, let's get some heads banging, let's get some pits stirring. That's a good fucking ethic right there.
Yeah.
But this back half is just sort of confusing. It just feels like, maybe you got the digipack and these are the bonus tracks. Which it might be, like these might be the outtakes that just kind of slapped on there, but it really didn't do for much for me. And an album's got to close as well as it opens, at least, in my opinion. Your opening track has to set things off, and honestly, How Many Can Die does that well.
Yes.
But it closes with sort of a dud of an anthem, and that's just not the way to close it.
No.
So overall, I'm going to give this 3 stars. The first 8 tracks, I enjoyed all of them. I thought they were all really good. They were high energy, great riffs on it. But because of the latter half, that definitely takes away a lot of it. And it just sucks because you feel the energy sucked out of the room, because Burn, Liar, Burn is a ripping song. And then you get to the rest of it, I was like, man, what happened? It sucks because, at the same time, there's a lot of shit I like in here. It's just an uneven listen. There was a lot of potential on this. I just think there's fat to be trimmed off of this. That would make it overall a stronger album. But again, I still think it's pretty enjoyable listen. I still think it's, got a lot of good songs, and the good songs outnumber the bad songs, so that's important.
Yeah.
If you enjoy, I guess, Venom Inc's first album, I don't know. I haven't really listened to it. Check this out. It definitely has a little bit of the old Venom sound to it, but this is definitely a new band with a little bit thrashier direction. And overall, it's pretty damn fun.
I'm going to give it a 3 as well. It was all right. Now, I've never heard Venom Inc's first album either. I've heard a little bit of Venom here and there in passing. I mean, it's Venom. This is good. The riffs are fun, but, I mean, much like Nick said, that back half of the record just fucking kills it. And, I mean, it doesn't kill the whole record. It just kills the necessity of the back half of the record. If you would have made a 35-minute album, this would have been a banger, because the first 7, 8 tracks are really good. I definitely would change some things in production. Just definitely just tweak things here, a little bit there, maybe throw in some reverb, maybe some things to kind of like break it up a little bit, because I understand that this band is not all about dynamic. They're just about bringing straightforward fucking thrash at this point, and that's great. But I still probably would have tweaked it up a little bit just to kill the monotony. Other than that, though, it was a good time. I had a good time. It's not like I wasn't banging my head the whole time. I just was confused by the back half.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you'll have that. And, you know, for dudes in their 60s, they definitely still got it. The lead work is really good.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give them props on the lead work. But, yeah, overall, wasn't a bad listen. You know, like Nick said, if you're a Venom fan... there's still going to be things in here for you. If you're a Venom Inc. fan, you know, you're probably going to like where this goes. So, yeah, definitely pick it up and check it out for sure. Don't listen to us, by the way, too. You know, you tell us to go fuck ourselves. This is just our opinions.
That's right. Tell him to go fuck himself.
Tell him to fuck himself and to use the business end of this pencil.
He prefers a cactus.
They don't, luckily, they're not indigenous in this part of the country.
No, they just stopped selling you cactuses because you kept getting them stuck in your bum.
No, all lies. Don't feed me your lies.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there is a link down below to thrallsmetal.com, where there is also a link to our Patreon. But while you're at thrallsmetal.com, you can actually kind of check out stuff there. We have shirts for sale. We will have new merch like this little hat right here.
Little hat. Take off my little hat.
And eventually shorts and banana hammocks, definitely. Grenades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might even get Shred to model the banana hammock.
Or the grenades.
Or both.
Throwing grenades.
Throwing grenades while in a
Thralls hammock. Oh yeah, we'll be on the news.
I know. Oh yeah.
And of course, thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, following, commenting, all that stuff. You guys, again, are the reason we love doing this. We say the same goofy, fucking awkward shit at the end of every video, but we mean it. Especially the goofy, awkward part, because that is definitely us.
We are incredibly goofy and awkward and silly and stupid. You're probably picking up on that by now. No, if you haven't at this point, chickadee check yourself before you riggedy wreck yourself.
See? That's fucking awkward. Right there. Hella awkward. And it's all for you. But thank you so much for all the support, all the love. It's amazing doing this. We look forward to bringing you a ton more content. And believe me,
there's a
ton coming. I think this release schedule for this month and probably next month is going to be absolutely insane. So yeah, get ready for a lot of shit.
Yes.
So as always, thank you again because you're fucking awesome.
Thank you.
We'll catch you later.